at the end of the day, you better coach what you believe. You better coach what's really inside of you. If you want your players to believe in you, you better coach what you truly believe, because if you don't, it's going to come out and they're going to question it.
Hi, I'm Corey Baldwin.
And I'm Daniel Bowles. We're back with a new Off the Beaten Path, a podcast for basketball coaches living in obscurity, working in obscurity, and even those who have made it out of obscurity.
And this is a place for storytelling. Some of those stories are true, for connecting, reconnecting, and we learn a little bit while we're here too. And a place for food for thought, and my favorite part, food for the belly. And today we got a special guest. Any of us Atlanta guys or South Georgia guys, which I tie into, this guy is a legend in both spots. Won a million games at a place that no longer exists, Southern Poly. Kind of had it rolling, and then reinvented himself in Division II and got it rolling again down here in Valdosta State, the school of South Georgia, as they like to say. So let's introduce here Big Mike Helfer. Man, glad to have you, Mike.
Well, it's good to be here with you guys. Corey, I need you to introduce me every time I speak, so I'll be having you drive over to Valdosta, and you'll be my guy who walks in the ring holding up, the belt before somebody comes in. But no, I appreciate you guys having me on, and this is fun because all three of us go back a long way.
Like Mike said, we all go back a long way. I was a volunteer assistant for Coach. Feels like 100 years ago, but it was, at the beginning of my career, and he gave me a start. So I'm happy we can get on here. But Coach, if you want to just take us all the way back, and how did you get into basketball? Where did it start? How did you end up from Ohio to Georgia? Just give us your rundown.
Yeah, people don't really realize this about me. I was probably a bigger football guy in high school. And, as I was trying to decide what I wanted to do, we had played at a small school in Ohio, Newark Catholic High School. And we won 2 state championships in football, got recruited quite a bit in football, but I chose to go basketball and play at Capital University and loved it. Had a great career there. Had some lifelong friends. Really, really close even to this day to my coach there, Dave Sacuti. Just had a good time. And then when I got out of, playing college basketball, I thought, man, I don't really want to go too far away from the game. So I thought the closest seat was right there on the sideline. So I went right into being a volunteer assistant at Capital. Was there for a couple of years. And then I got a break from Jim McDonald at Kent State, being a graduate assistant coach at Kent State. And that was a great break for me in my career to get into that level. I got really lucky and was at Kent State for 5 years. And then I jumped up to Grand Valley State with Jay Smith, who's now assistant at Michigan with Juwan Howard. Name drop Corey, just so you know, I interviewed with Steve Fisher one time in my career. I love that. That was great. Still feel like I'm pretty good friends with Coach Fisher to this day. But so then after Grand Valley, you guys, I had a chance to make a decision. Was I going to keep going in this profession, or was I going to maybe go into State Farm? I think all of us, as you're growing up through the profession, and you start to think, man, is this something I can really do and make money at and have a career and a good life? Or do I need to go somewhere else to try to make money? And a lot of people that are listening to this might be young coaches. You're going to cross this bridge at some point in time. And I crossed it to stay in coaching and was very fortunate to get the Southern Poly job in Atlanta, an engineering school. No PE classes, nothing. Everybody said, you know what, Mike, that's not a great job. You can't win there consistently. Well, I think we could. I thought we could. We built that brand there. One of my favorite pictures, Bowles, is you, me, and Portier at the scorers table after we won the championship that one year. That's one of my favorite all-time pictures. And we were very successful at Southern Poly, and Valdosta State opened up, and I got Valdosta State and have been here for 16 years, entering my 17th year. Again, I think we've been successful here as well. So that's kind of my path. And, I don't mean to be hogging the podcast, time, but especially with 2 great coaches like yourselves. So I will turn it back over to you, Coach Bowles.
Now, I'm going to rewind you for a minute because I think in this day of the internet and hoop dirt and all this, tell everybody, how did you get the Southern Poly job?
This is actually a good story, so hopefully people can hang with me for a second. I was actually very close to going to State Farm, had contacted State Farm. I moved to Atlanta after Grand Valley, and was kind of in between, wasn't sure. And I was sitting around, and I promise you guys that the job Southern Poly was posted in the this is old time newspaper, the Transactions. All the old coaches will remember that. And it said that they had fired George Paredes. So I was like, man, I'm going to go and find out where this school is. Long story short, we looked it up. It was 7 miles from where I was living. I thought I'll just go over there and walk around campus. I had nothing to do. State Farm was going to interview me a week later. And so I had a week to do nothing. I walked over there. The first guy I met was the athletic director. I asked him if he had information on his program. He said, "Why would you ask me that?" And I said, "I'm kind of interested in your job." And he looked at me and he looked at my shorts, and I was wearing Grand Valley shorts. And he said, "Grand Valley?" He goes, "Why do you have Grand Valley shorts on?" And I said, "Well," I coached there last year. He said, "I grew up 20 minutes from Grand Valley." Crazy story. Got my resume, got an interview, and I'll kind of speed it up for y'all. I sit down with the president at Southern Poly, Dan Papp, at that time, still a great friend of mine to this day. And he's looking at my resume and he's like, "Now tell me where you lived when you were coaching at Kent State." And I said, "I lived in Chagrin Falls. It's kind of halfway between Cleveland and Kent. My roommate worked in Cleveland." And he goes, "Huh?" He goes, "Where'd you live in Chagrin Falls?" And I said, "Off of 422. He says, "What exit?" And I knew at that time, I thought, man, he's got some knowledge up there. And a long story short, he grew up off of like exit 4, and I was living off of exit 6 of 422. Now we were at Southern Poly in Marietta, Georgia. This is the president that's going to hire me. And he asked me, he goes, "Have you ever been to the Blue Tavern?" The Blue Tavern is beer and bands. And, at that point in time, I was 29 years old. I was like, "Sure, I've been to the Blue Tavern, Dr. Papp." He goes, "So have I. There have been some great bands out there." And anyway, long story short, he calls me the next day and offers me the job. So I know this. It's kind of an urban legend because it doesn't happen like that anymore. But that was my path, and I'm very thankful that I got that job that way.
Well, the folk story is that you got offered a job while wearing a Grand Valley State hat and T-shirt that you didn't even interview. That's the folk story. So it's already been exaggerated out that you're the only coach ever hired in basketball while wearing a hat.
Well, I actually had a hat on and Grand Valley shorts. And so it's kind of when I met the AD for the first time. So I think that's how that got maybe that folklore started. But I will tell you this, there's not too many coaches in today's world that move to a new city. The job opens within 5 days of moving there, close to where you live, and you walk onto campus and the AD and the president have very close connections to where you have been, and you didn't know it when I walked onto campus.
Man, that's unbelievable. The old Southern Tech is the true Atlanta folks call it, but Southern Poly. Tell us a little bit about your time there. With it being known for a tech school, real math-oriented school, how in the world were you getting all these JUCO guys in and winning all these games and pressing and running around and doing the things you were doing there?
And I'll think this, you guys, I thought that job could be really good because of the location. I thought you could really recruit anybody to come there. Daniel, Coach Bowles, whatever I'm supposed to say now. I know we'll come back to that in one day. Corey, this is one of the best 3-on-3 players I've ever played with. Daniel Bowles, me, Bowles, Portier. Bowles, remember we played 3-on-3 in Ohio in the Gus Macker?
That's when they told us we weren't. They told us we weren't big enough, didn't they?
They said, "Who are these little guys you're bringing out there?" And I have Bowles at 6'4" and Portier at 6'6". No, I thought we could win at Poly. I thought the location was great. The school was awesome. And I just think we had to be careful I think sometimes JUCO, and Corey, you're in it, gets labeled as kids that are not smart, not good academically. That's not all the kids in junior college. Yes, there are some kids that have to go to junior college because they didn't make their test score or they're not great in the classroom. But there's also kids going to junior college that are trying to better themselves, get a better offer, get somewhere after 2 years because they weren't heavily recruited coming out of high school. And those kids are motivated. They're academically talented enough to get it done, get their degree. That's who we found. And we found the kids with the high motor, and it worked. I mean, it worked for a long time at Southern Poly.
What would you say during your time? I know you had some great national games and, obviously made a run. You were #1 in the country at one time. You were on the cover of the AJC, which is hard to do because they only cover the Hawks, the Braves, and the Falcons. But what would you say was your big rival while you were down there?
I thought we developed a rivalry with Faulkner. And at that point in time, Jim Sanderson was the coach there. He played exactly like we played. He is a phenomenal coach, a phenomenal person. Jim and I became very good friends. And, I thought that became our rivalry. Like one year we beat them in the semifinals of the conference tournament and we won the conference tournament and they went on and won the national championship that year. And it just became great respect. And then I would say right behind that, Chris Faulkner up at North Georgia, we had a really good rivalry when he was there and they were NAIA and we were in the same league. That was a great rivalry, I think, because of location of the schools and we all recruited a lot of the same players. So, but I would say Faulkner first and then maybe North Georgia after that.
What was that league? Tell us a little bit about that league. I know it's changed a lot. Schools move around so much. Tell us who was in that league at that time.
It's really amazing because you look at you had North Georgia, who's now Division II. You had Emmanuel was in that league, Division II. You had Piedmont in that league, which was now Division III. We had Georgia Southwestern, Bruton Parker, Faulkner, AUM. AUM is Division II in our league now. I thought it was a great league. Now I'm going to talk about some names of some phenomenal coaches. You had Jim Sanderson in that league. You had Randolph Barksdale at Georgia Southwestern, phenomenal coach. You had Steve Barker at Bruton Parker, a great coach. You had Larry Chapman at Auburn Montgomery, who, won so many games. He's in their Hall of Fame over there. There were guys in that league, and Bowles, you were with us, like that could coach basketball. I mean, it was a great league at a great time with great coaches, and the talent level in that league was really unbelievable.
Well, one more question here before Bowles jumps in, because I know Bowles has got a lot with it. Tell us a little bit about a team you haven't mentioned. They wasn't in your league, but they were literally in the same town, Life University.
Well,
how was that with you guys in Southern Poly?
Yeah,
Life.
and I was going to get to Life because they were not in the league. But for those people that don't know, I could see Life's gymnasium from the backside hill of Southern Poly. That's how close the two schools were. So it was a great rivalry. But at that time, Life was independent, and we didn't play them but like one time early in the year. So it didn't have that February conference grinded out type of game feel, but it did have a rivalry feel. And at that point in time, Roger Kaiser was there, I think, 1 year. And I saw Roger Kaiser last year playing in a golf tournament, and we had a great talk and much respect for him. John Barrett took over after Roger. It was just a great rivalry. And Life University used to be one of the best in the country. I haven't followed them as much lately, but that was a good rivalry.
And Coach, I'm going to go back a little bit and talk about Faulkner again and go back to not Chris Faulkner, but Faulkner University. And I remember one of my favorite things was when you would tell our guys, if we can get Coach Sanderson to throw his paper, we got him beat. And the way I look at it, and I know Coach Baldwin on here being a system guy is the same way. And you knew that in his system, he wanted to play harder than your opponent. And you weren't going to let him. So I guess what I want to ask you, and this is kind of probably the thing that's impressed me most about you throughout the years, is you had a system at Southern Poly and you won a ton of games. You recruited to that system. Well, you got to Valdosta and you totally reinvented yourself, and you've still won a whole lot of games. Can you talk about like how you changed as a coach from the time you were in Marietta and coming down here to Valdosta?
Yeah, and when we're at Marietta, we played a lot like Corey plays. We just made it 94 feet, and it was chaotic. And Daniel, you were with us, and I did think that one benefit of that system is that it upsets the opposing coach to a degree that they end up just arguing or yelling at their own guys instead of staying focused on how to win the game. A lot of coaches fall into this trap. You get caught up on stuff during the game that is not helping you win the game. And that's been my philosophy with the pressing 94 feet. I came to Valdosta State, NAIA, you had 11 scholarships. I thought you could break them up. I think you could get 12, 13 guys that were very good players to play that system. And coming to Valdosta State, you have 10 scholarships, and we do it a little bit differently where we don't break them up. And when you balance them out through classes and stuff, I just made the decision coming here to maybe not play as aggressive defensively in the full court. I still think we're aggressive in the half court. And, I guess every coach, as you go through your career, you're going to find a time when you either want to challenge yourself or you need to challenge yourself. And I thought we did that when I came down here and sat down and thought, okay, what's the path to winning in Division II in Valdosta State? And we found a different path. And I guess the moral of the story is you've got to, A, maybe coach how you believe and what you truly believe in inside. And B, don't be afraid to try something new, but we still had a lot of our concepts of the 94 feet. We were just in the half court. And I think, I was just thinking about talking to you guys today. I think all these coaches that listen to these podcasts and they go on these videos, they go to clinics and they take 10 pages of notes. At the end of the day, you better coach what you believe. You better coach what's really inside of you. If you want your players to believe in you, you better coach what you truly believe, because if you don't, it's going to come out and they're going to question it. And so, for me, Daniel, I got down here and I just thought, man, that I thought that's what we needed to do. And so I was all in and we did it. And I've been blessed, but I wouldn't have been able to do it without players. I mean, you got to have players no matter what system you play in. I think recruiting the right players was the right key for us down here.
And another thing that's unique about your journey is that, there's a lot of guys that, they always talk about levels and all this sort of stuff. Well, you played Division III, you've coached NAIA, you've coached Division I, you've coached Division II, you've recruited junior college. What do you think for your career, just having all those different experiences, what's that been like for you, as opposed to someone who is, kind of been the same the whole time?
I think you call it hitting for the cycle in baseball, right? You got all the levels covered. What I figured out is that as long as you're involved with the game of basketball, you better be thankful, because, and let's talk about Corey's job. And Corey, I have so much respect for it. But if some reason Corey decided to bump somewhere else out of South Georgia and coaches it, there's going to be 200 guys that apply for his job in 3 days. So I guess what I've learned is just, man, like be thankful, like you're in the game, you're coaching, you have an impact on kids' lives. Like I've never been one to say this level is better than that level. This level is more, rewarding than that level. Winning a championship at Capital University Division III, at Valdosta State, Southern Poly, Kent State, wherever it might be, man, championship is valuable. And it's not like the kids don't feel it any differently. Heck, boys, when you guys were in high school, you win a championship, your kids have that same excitement as kids do at Valdosta State when we win the GSC. So for me, it's just never been about levels.
A lot of times in coaching is winning. The fact that you can stay in it no matter what the level is or whatever. Sometimes that's winning. Of course, some people may say that's losing because you're crazy to stay in it. But I think that's a lot of it. Obviously, staying longevity and sustaining winning like you have is unbelievable. Tell us, what did you take from your time at Kent State that has helped you at Southern Poly and Valdosta State as a head coach. Now, obviously, you had Grand Valley too, so you might could answer both of those. But what came from those being an assistant coach? You know.
Yeah, and I think if you're in this thing long enough, especially as an assistant coach, you're going to get fired. Like I think that's going to happen almost. And we got fired at Kent State. We didn't win enough games there, and I think sometimes as an assistant, you can work for people and learn what to do. And sometimes you can work for somebody and maybe learn what not to do or what you would not do. What I learned at Kent State was I never felt like going into the game we had as good or better players than some of the top teams. I thought we had great players ranking, and some of those kids that played for us were elite players. We just didn't have maybe enough of them. We were not deep enough to sustain an injury and still win, to sustain something happening, and still winning. And that's what I learned at Kent was maybe to make sure you have enough good players. I will tell you this, at Grand Valley, you guys, I worked for Jay Smith. He's by far the best X&O guy I've ever worked for. Probably just the ability to break down your team, the opponent, whatever. He's phenomenal. He went on and had a tremendous career at Central Michigan as a head coach, and now he's back at Michigan. So, I think for me and longevity, Corey, let's not be fooling ourselves. Your administration is a huge part of keeping you maybe at one place for as long as I've had 2 ADs in my career as a head coach, the same one at Southern Poly the whole time and the same one at Valdosta State. They are both phenomenal guys. They've given me the opportunity and have let me go ahead and run my program. And that's been beneficial to me. But I do agree that to stay in a long time, you have to win games, but you better have a good administration too.
Yeah, that's good stuff. When you came south, what were the biggest changes that you had to make, being an Ohio guy to come into the old South, and then even from Atlanta to South Georgia?
Well, from Ohio, I was in Michigan to Georgia, I had to leave half my wardrobe up there, man. It was free. I needed to get some short sleeve shirts, but I think I think every area of the country might be a little bit different in youth basketball. I'm going to tell you, I think the Midwest, those kids spend a lot of time shooting in the driveway, they shoot. Here in the South, I think kids love to play. They love to play 5-on-5 and get on AAU teams. Maybe out West, if you looked out in California, those kids are on the beaches a lot, and thus they're really athletic kids. Maybe that's because they grow up running in the surf, in the sand, which we do now, to train and stuff. So I think each area of the country is a different kind of maybe brand growing up. And I think I learned that as I came down here that, just different recruiting styles of how you look at kids and where you look for kids. And that was probably the biggest adjustment for me, is that maybe don't take the kid that is a great 3-point shooter but can't do other things, and so we just got better at maybe evaluating that.
And Coach, I'm going to go the opposite direction. Corey went from north down here. I wanted to talk about, so in Ohio, obviously you have your roots are in Ohio, and one of the things you do that I think is awesome is the fact that you go home every summer and run a camp. I don't want to get into too many stories of camp because those can go certain directions, but I guess just kind of talk about your upbringing and how that's kind of led for you to kind of keep this thing going, which is a really cool thing, being that far away and being able to continue it.
Yeah. I was always big on going back to Newark, Ohio. It's a big football town. There's great basketball there now, but when I was growing up, it wasn't great basketball. We had some great basketball players, and I thought, man, I want to go back there and do a camp, and that it would allow me to go back to where I grew up and all my family's there and kind of give back. And so now this year, I think was year 28 that I went back. And as soon as we opened it up, we had 100 kids register. That's about our limit, so it fills up in a matter of 2 or 3 weeks. So I've been very blessed going back there and doing that. Now, let's get to the fun part. So we used to bring in, I don't know if Corey knows this, we'd have coaches come back to work the camp. You know, Bowles was with me, and so he and Portier come up one year, and we parked a motorhome in the backyard, and all the coaches stayed in the motorhome. And Corey, these are the best times. You know, Josh Timmons and Peterson and those guys from Mount Union came down. We had a Division III All-Star team working one year, and we're out in the backyard and we're playing cornhole, and let's be honest, we're drinking beer, and we ran out of beer, and Timmons goes, "That's okay, I'll go get some." And he goes up to the store and got, I don't know, let's make sure everybody knows, Josh was what, 6'8", 270. He was a giant man. And we probably had both seven guys back there. I think Tony was there, Tony Watkins, all those guys were there. And Timmons comes back and he's got like 5 cases of beer. It's like 140 beers. And I was like, "What are you doing?" And he's like, I think this is what we're going to need. Well, let's fast forward to the morning. We're doing stations in the morning, and Corey, I'm walking around passing out sticks of spearmint gum to everybody. I said, "Better put this in and better be chewing this for a while." I don't think we went to sleep. We played cornhole until like 4:30 in the morning. Camp started at 8. Now, every year that we brought guys up there, I don't know how this happened. Everybody answered the bell. Everybody got up. Everybody had great energy. Everybody was probably dead tired. But man, camp was not, diminished in any way by playing cornhole and drinking 140, whatever it would be, 120 beers in a matter of about 4 hours from 1 a.m. to 5 a.m. That's probably a story. We're not editing that one out. We're leaving that one in there. I'm okay with it. But Bowles was there. He knows exactly what was going on. I was like, "What in the heck are you doing? Come back here." Bowles, you might have went with him to get the dang case of beer. I was like,
it's one of those, like all us guys from the South, we don't realize that there's drive-through gas stations in there where you can pull in and you just pull in your car and it's right there.
They said, "Load it up." They said, "How many?" He said, 5 cases. We said, "All right, let's go."
And Corey, on top of the nights, it's the most physically exhausting camp I've ever worked. And I've worked camps all over the place, the big school camps, my own camps. And we had, it was a session in the morning. We took a little break, and then we had a session in the afternoon. And then Coach Helfer was we were going to play after it was done. We were going to play 3-on-3 for whatever it was. And then somebody in the town was going to cook dinner. And then we were going to go hang out all night, and then you're going to do it again. And it was 4 days that are long. I don't know how we made it through it, but it was awesome.
It was really you know what? I look back and we still tell the stories. We don't have the motorhome anymore. It's pretty much just local guys come and work it. But we tell the stories. And Bowles, listen, there have been kids working my camp now that have been through it. That's happened year after year after year. Brad Burkholder came to my camp in 2nd grade, came all the way through 8th grade, and you're not allowed to do it for high school kids. So he had to stop in 8th grade, played basketball and I think baseball at Urbana, and came and worked for me as a GA 2 years ago. And now as the assistant at Newark High School, where I hold my camp to this day. Like there's some really, really cool stories through that whole thing. Hey, here's another one since it's story time. So Corey, Bowles, myself, and Portier, we're playing in the Gus Macker. Like we got college guys that played college basketball. This will be great. The Gus Macker was in Newark, a 3-on-3 tournament. So we thought we better get ready to play the 3-on-3 tournament. And Bowles, if you remember, we're going to play at nighttime. Jason Peterson, Curtis Stevens, and Josh Timmons in 3-on-3. They were going to get us ready for the Macker. Corey, we're like, we're about to kick these. Like, we're going to get after them. We go out there and they smoked us. They were so dang good. And I was like, just goes to show you, like we had 6 guys up there or more, and you had Tony Watkins in that could really play basketball. And it was fun. Like they beat the heck out of us. But then we went on to the Macker, and I think Bowles, we only won a couple, maybe. I don't know how that worked out, but I mean, just good times. But that goes to show you how good Division III basketball is up there in Ohio. All of those guys were Division III basketball players.
Well, we always joke here on this podcast, everything goes back to D3, it seems like. Searle, the other co-host, he was a D3 guy, so he kind of makes it that way, and he'll be mad he wasn't on this interview now with all this D3 love we're getting here. But camp stories, man, how crazy is that? Every guest we have off the beaten path seems to go back to basketball camps, and I think that just shows you the cool part of our sport. You know, that's something different from some of the other sports. You know, the camps and the chance to hang out and bro down with all your fellow coaches and all that. But you mentioned one thing there I wanted to give you a chance to kind of tell, because it's been a big part of your career. You've had a lot of guys that have played for you or worked for you that are in coaching now, high school, college, AAU, and some even other levels. Tell us a little bit about that, some of the guys you've had move on.
You know, obviously, I've had a lot of guys that have moved on. You know, Bulls is one. And, you know, I've watched his teams over the years, and they've been great. Like, you guys have been really good. And, you know, Bulls, before I even say anything, like, I respect you because I watched you and your little boy growing up. And I'm very disappointed that you knew I was on this podcast today, Corey, and he sends his son to school in a West Georgia basketball shirt. Like, Corey, who does that? Like, come on, man. Like, today's the day. And I pull it up and bam, right in my face. Brooks has got a day, West Georgia. I was like, Bulls.
That must have been intentional, man.
I think he's pushing for some Valdosta State gear. I think he did it on purpose. He's like, oh, I want to get some Valdosta gear out of this.
I believe it. I believe it. The kid's got like a jersey of every possible basketball team in America. I better send one up there. But I think, you know, okay, so there's probably young kids that are listening to this that are getting into profession, or maybe they're curious for whatever reason. I think one of the things that you have to do, you can't go after a job when it opens up. It's not going to happen. All of us are head coaches, right? We have in our minds who you would probably hire as your assistant if somebody leaves. You know, the chances of a just random somebody you don't know applying for your job and getting it is slim. I wouldn't say none, but it's slim. So how do you get yourself in position to get jobs in coaching? I think it's working camps. Because you get to spend time. Think about this now. You get to spend social time. You get to spend teaching time. You get to spend coaching time, where whoever camp you're running, if there's a head coach there or whatever camp you're working, he's watching you do all those things and to see how it is. And then at the end of the day, you get to be the guy that does the extra stuff, helps him clean up or whatever. And you build those relationships. And almost all the guys, like Bose, you work some camps for me, coursework camps like that. I mean, that's one way to get in. And I think this, Corey, you talk about assistants moving on. You know, I'm a big believer that as an assistant, like some head coaches get mad if an assistant tries to chase a job. Where, man, I'm all about like, let's get your assistant to the next level, or where your assistant wants to go, where your assistant wants to be. Like, you need to help them as the head coach. You do not need to be upset because somebody, you know, interviews for a job a week into the season. Well, if that's when that job opens up, and that's a good move for that guy and his family and his career, you as a head coach, you're obligated to help him and to be happy for him. We'll figure it out if he leaves and he gets it. But, you know, so I've been very fortunate to have so many guys that have worked for me. Eric Blair played for me up at Southern Poly, and now he's doing a great job in high schools up in Atlanta, being a great high school coach. You know, just there's so many. I mean, it would be hard for me to go down the list, but, you know, Bowles was at the top of the list. He bumped down with the West Georgia shirt on his kid. So let's see, Bowles, you know, you're probably still in the top 10 though.
There we go. There we go. A couple years ago when we made our run at Brookwood to the quarterfinals, it was funny because would text with Coach Helfer, and, you know, I was still running some of his same plays. You know, we're running orange and we're running different things. And it's just funny to see how that stuff kind of comes full circle, and the stuff that stays with you as you go.
For sure. And, you know, like, I'll tell you this, Corey, we haven't worked together, but I love watching Corey's teams play, you know, because Corey and I have a very similar mindset onto how to attack the game, you know, at both ends of the floor. I don't believe in the 3-second call like Corey does. But I believe everybody's like, what's that about? Listen, so I'm going to tell it. Corey, like, I love Corey. And you only can be a pressing team if your coach is into the game as much as the players are. I believe that. You can't sit on the sideline, Corey, with your legs crossed and expect your team to press and play 94 feet. It just doesn't work like that. And so Corey's up and down the sideline, and man, he gets in the game, and all of us get on the officials, man. I'm just as bad. But Corey loves to argue that 3-second call. Get that guy 3 seconds, 3 seconds. And I said, Corey, I always see this after the game. I said, how many 3-second calls did they call tonight? Corey would be like, they didn't call any. That guy was camping in there. They didn't call any. But anyway, I think that Corey didn't work for me, but we have a similar mindset, so we get along. I think as a coach in the profession, you've got to be able to listen and have relationships with other coaches that don't believe or see it the way you do. Like, you have to. And let me tell you guys something else too, since we're on a good podcast. I'm getting old. I'm at that point. I'm like Morgan Freeman in that movie about the prison, where there was a prison break or whatever.
Yeah.
And, he always goes in. What's the name of that movie?
Is that Shawshank?
Yeah, Shawshank Redemption.
Okay. Shawshank. Morgan Freeman's trying to get off parole, and he goes in there like every time, and each time he's like, oh, listen, I'll definitely rehabilitate, and they stamp it rejected. Finally, he goes in there and says, I really don't give a dang. Like, just sign, I'm going on back, and they stamp it approved. Like, he gets in there, and I'm kind of like at that point in my career, like, I'm like, listen, I'm just going to say it like it is, and whatever I say, and I'm going to be, just me. I'm not going to try to be somebody else. And I think, from a standpoint of coaches in this profession, what drives me nuts, and this is what I was going to say, like, we can be in the same league and we can talk, maybe at a recruiting event. We can talk before the game. We can talk after the game. That doesn't mean that somebody wants to win less during the game, because you have an actual relationship with a guy that's going through the same stuff you're going through. Somebody that's got a family, is missing a kid's 7th grade basketball game because we're playing on that night. Like, we're all have the same things going on. Like, let's be, together in the profession and not be at everybody's throats. Corey, if we were going to play, we're going to be at each other's throat for 40 minutes. Like, that's going to happen. I mean, like, if we didn't, we wouldn't respect each other. But dang, I can come up to you when I get in the gym and shake your hand and say, Corey, how are you doing? How's your family? How's your kids? Bowles, how's Brooks doing? Is he playing? What, like, you can do that, and then we can compete. And you know what? At the end of the night, I might be mad as heck because Corey beat my brains out, but I'm going to shake his hand, and it's going to take me about 2 hours, and then we'll probably text him on my way home. Like, hey, man, I'll talk to you next time. I'll see you in Valdosta, And I think sometimes too many coaches get caught up on this, protect their own kingdom. Man, it's not like that. We all need each other. This thing's too crazy.
I know one of my favorite things is Helfer always makes the journey over to Waycross 2 or 3 times a year and watches either a practice or a couple of games. And my favorite part, and I have a couple other guys that'll do this, it's kind of almost like I'm getting a little bit of a tutor session. And I love it because after the game, he'll come in and, hey, this was good. This was great. Hey, why'd you do this? Hey, what's the deal with this guy? Why'd you sub right then? And kind of just, and it's never, like, hey, you're dummy or nothing like that. But, or, hey, I would have done this. It might be, hey, have you ever thought of doing this? And, hey, here's some things we do. I like this. Could you run this out of that? And it really gets you thinking, gets the wheels turning, and it helps you. And he's always done that since I've been down here. And it even goes back further. You kind of would do that when we would cross paths recruiting back when I was an assistant at Clayton and you were the head coach at Southern Poly. We would sit there in X and O and drawing dirt while watching perimeter play somebody. Or Metro. We were always at those 2 gyms, it seemed like, recruiting the opponent, right?
Hey, we were identifying the kids we couldn't recruit. That's Alfred Barney, who's a great coach. Like, when I was in the gym by myself, I was his best friend. When the D1 guys were in there, he's like, hey, boy, stay over there. I don't even know who you are over there, I think as coaches, you got to, always be thinking, like, that doesn't mean change. But I think you always got to look at things. And I don't care who you are. I don't care what level you're at. I don't care if you are doing something that interests me, or I'm like, hey, maybe I could use that. Or if we're close friends, I could say, hey, look, you could look at this or whatever. Man, that's how the game grows. That's how coaches grow, I think, is always trying to get a little bit better, or trying to at least look at different things. I mean, you got to always stay current, because today's kids are playing a certain way as they're growing up. So you got to stay current. And I think that that's one way to do it.
I love it. I love it. And then, you know, people that don't know, Waycross, Douglas, not too far from Valdosta. So we're basically neighbors. You know, we can hang out and stuff and draw in the dirt. I went by the other week and saw his elite camp. And, you know, Helfer's always got stuff going on there in Valdosta, trying to change Title Town to Hoop Town. And I love it. I love it. So Helfer, we do this thing here at the end where we go lightning round, and me and Bowles will both throw 4 questions at you a piece. You can always start storytelling and name dropping within those quick answers. We don't mind, but we're going to try to hit you up with some stuff here and kind of get, you know, pick your brain a little bit, and then we'll let you get out of here. I know you got a lot to do. Bowles, you want to start it off?
I think, you know, a lot of people don't understand like the NAIA life. When, you know, give everybody just an experience. It could be a great experience. It could be a bad experience from Southern Poly. Just give them something to tell them, man, that's college coaching right there. Just give us one. Just, I know it's gonna be hard to pick one, but give us a Southern Poly story.
I'll pick one. We were on the bus. Jeff Wilson was my assistant. We were driving the 25 passenger bus. I'm sitting in the front seat. We're driving it. In NAIA, you not only gas the bus, you clean the bus, you drive the bus, you park the bus. We are on the highway, and I'm looking at him, and he's looking at me. He's like, what's that rattling? Something's rattling. And I was like, Jeff, we probably should get off this exit right here and see. Got all our guys back there. So we pull off the exit. We have no idea. And we decided we're going to be mechanics. And we look under the bus, and the dang muffler is almost about to fall off. It's been dragging for miles. Our solution was to go get a couple zip ties, put it up on there, zip tie them, and drive to Marietta, Georgia, about an hour and a half more. True story. With the muffler, zip tied, both of us are on edge, just praying that thing stayed on there. That's NAIA basketball.
And I think that's the same bus that we drove when I was there years later. That we drove through the night to Memphis and all over the dang place.
Were the zip ties still there?
You know, if I had known that, I probably wouldn't have drove the bus.
All right, that's pretty good. All right, so give us in your time now down in Valdosta, you've been down there how many years now, Coach? You said 17?
Yeah, this is starting year 17.
All right, give me the best place to eat in Valdosta. Right now, you got one place to eat lunch, one place to eat dinner. Where are you going for lunch? Where are you going for dinner? I guess you'll give us 2 places.
Yeah, my lunch go-to is Tropical Smoothie. I'm telling you, that place is incredible. I get a smoothie. My wife, Lindsay, always helps me and brings it over by the office. By far, that place. I think, you know, eating dinner somewhere is different, but one of the most famous, maybe everybody's heard about, is called the Smoking Pig. That barbecue place. That it's really good. Kids love going there. So those would be my 2 places for right now. Outside of your chain restaurants, I mean, that's no fun to say Longhorn or Outback. Everybody's got those. But if you're coming through Valdosta, ask for the Smoking Pig. You'll love it.
I like it. All right, go ahead, Bowles.
All right. So excluding the complex, give me the best atmosphere of a game that you've played in or coached in.
Well, so I'm going to say this because I believe the complex is incredible for Division II. So I want to make sure people understand. It's not like we leave the complex looking for great places to play. Like if you've been to a game, it's the pregame, the atmosphere is incredible. We have fireworks inside this year and starting lineups. Like my kids, we went to the Orlando Magic game, and on the way home, they said, Dad, their starting lineups really weren't that much better than yours. So everybody knows where we're at. But I think one of the best environments is when we play West Georgia, you know, on the road at West Georgia. Like that's a rivalry game that puts a lot of people in there. I would put that up there. But I am going to turn it to Lenny Acuff at Alabama Huntsville. We developed a great rivalry. He's a phenomenal coach. They've been super successful. And that's the only place where I enjoy interacting with the 80 and 85-year-old fan base behind the scores table that are smarter than me in basketball. And our arguments and discussions with the fans are probably legit. Like they could come down and coach both of our teams. So that's my atmospheres right there.
All right. Well, that segues me in perfect, Bowles. I think you planned that one without telling me. I want to go the opposite direction. What's the worst place you've coached at or played at since because we're off the beaten path here in the name of the show, and we've seen some bad places. I could probably do a whole show on them. I know you don't want to kill nobody you play against now, but go ahead, give us the worst place to play.
Well, okay, so I'm going to, go a couple places. And since it is off the beaten path and this is in Georgia, I'm going to keep it here. Before, and TJ will love this because TJ at Emmanuel, their place is beautiful now. But the place before that,
the columns,
he'll know. He'll be like, I know what Helfer's going to say. They had those steel beams, like they weren't but like 6 feet off the court. Like I was like, somebody's going to run into that beam sooner or later. And at the far end was the stage, and it was like 18 inches off that baseline. And so I would just say but it was a great place. Like it had character. But I would walk in there every time and just say a little prayer before the game that one of my guys doesn't run into those steel beams that are in front of the bleachers and in between the court and the bleachers. I was like, this really makes no sense, but that's going to be my toughest or weirdest place to play.
See, I thought we were going to get a Knoxville College or a Bruton Parker or something like that in there. Those are the.
So that would have been my other one. I was going to say in Georgia, and I'm trying to keep us on time. I would have said Bruton Parker because Steve Barker and I are good friends, and Bowles, you probably went there.
Yep.
Our locker rooms were underneath the floor, and they send their student section at half times. 10 of them would go right above your locker room and start jumping up and down while you're in halftime, and the lights are shaking. I mean, your guys are like, Coach, we just want to get out of here alive, let alone win the game. And they were so good. So Bruton Parker was one of my other ones. Knoxville College, that's a whole nother level there. I don't even know if that was a gym, but Emmanuel first though with the steel beams. Bruton Parker's a pretty special one as well.
All right, so I'll go back to some more positive stuff then. Give us a game. I know this is going to be hard. You've done it for a long time. You've won a lot of big games. Give me a game that just sticks out where you're like, man, that was awesome. That was, whether it was a big comeback, maybe a loss, whatever, just something that you're like, this was it.
Valdosta State had never beaten a team ranked number 1 in the country in men's basketball until we played Dip Mitras at Augusta. And I have great respect and love for Dip, man. That guy can coach his rear end off. And they were ranked number 1 in the country. I think this was 2009, 2010. We were ranked 5th, maybe, I think, at that time. And they came to Valdosta, and we beat them by 5 or 6 that night. You could not get another body in our arena. That is the biggest crowd we've ever had, the biggest crowd that, was just packed in there. It was fun to play in front. It was a great game. I can remember to this point in time, like we are up 2 with maybe 11 seconds. They run a little elevator screen for the Magden kid. Ben Magden played at Augusta. Jack Magden played at Delta State. And they run an elevator screen, and we just fell asleep. And my kid gets hammered, and Magden has a wide open 3 with like 10 seconds to go. And I was sitting there, and I thought, this is going to go in. And he missed it. We rebounded. They fouled us. I think they missed again, and they fouled us one more time, and we won by 5 or 6. And I think it was the first time. Valdosta State police were not ready for this. Our students and everybody swarmed the floor. That was obviously pre-COVID. You can't do it nowadays. Everybody would get sick, right? But anyway, they stormed the floor, and on the video, we had one police officer try to stop the student section. It was like, no. It was like Animal House when they're just flying by the police officer. stay there. And then finally he comes off. So that one really sticks out of my mind because it was the first time we'd ever beat number one. It was Dip and Augusta, much respect. And then our students rushing the floor. It was special.
All right. Well, I'll stay. We're going good cop, bad cop. I'll stay the bad cop here. Give me the one game that sticks out in your memory as, man, the one that kind of got away, the tough one that you still hadn't gotten over that you lost.
Yeah. I mean, when you do it as long as you have some that really stay in your mind. And, we lost to Harding in the GSC semifinals. I forget exactly what year that was, but you guys, let me think how this was. We were up 3. I think we fouled them. I'm a believer in that. This is the only time in my career that we have lost doing this. They make the first one, and there's like 1.4 seconds on the clock. They make the first one, so we're up 2. They miss the second one, and the fight for the rebound goes off of our guy's hand underneath. There's like 0.7 on the clock, and they throw it in, and a kid catches it at 40 feet and launches it and banks it in to beat us at the buzzer. And it just stands out in my mind as, fouling up 3. Do you do it or not? That's the only time we've probably done it 50 times in my career, but that one really sticks out. And we lost that game in the GSC semifinals.
That's tough.
Yeah, that's a hard one to transition from there. But I got one more, Corey. I got my last question. This is whenever I fill in for Searle, I gotta go with this one. Give us a book you're reading, a book guys need to read. Could be a book, podcast. We'll take any of those, but something guys in coaching or just in life, something good for them.
There's a book out there, and I think it's been a while since I read it. I think it's called The Energy Bus. And I think that it's something that, I think today's kids, sometimes want to press that go stop button on their energy level, their excitement level. And we address it right away at Valdosta State, like cool loses, leave cool in the locker room. Like, you need to come out energetic, enthusiastic every day. Whether or not you make 9 threes that day is irrelevant to your energy level. And that's what that book talks about is, about the energy bus, making sure that you bring energy, especially like kids that want to lead. I saw a good quote the other day, kids can't have bad practices, but neither can coaches. You've got to be energetic every day. And we had a team workout 2 nights ago. We talked about that. I said, listen, you won't make it out here unless you're energetic. You've got to be excited to play. And kids don't realize, all 3 of us realize that, your career is so short. They think it's going to last forever. It doesn't. You should accept every day, be enthusiastic, be energetic, enjoy the day, because you don't have it forever and your career is going to end at some point in time. So don't waste a day.
It's good stuff right there. And of course, the podcast you would suggest is this one. But I've got something for you right here that I asked the last couple of guests we've had, and I've kind of enjoyed where guests have went with it. Give us that moment where maybe you got humbled a little bit. In coaching, we're the biggest guy on our own campus probably, or at least in our sport or our area, and maybe even in the town, maybe even in the county, maybe even in the region. And then sometimes we'll go to another gym or around somewhere or whatever, and people don't know who we are, or somebody big times us a little bit, and we kind of get humbled a little bit. And it's always funny to hear stories of guys, telling that, because I think sometimes people looking on the outside in may not think that. So give us a time or two where you've been humbled a little bit, where you thought, maybe more people knew you than they knew you, or someone would know you or whatever.
Well, I give you one. It happened just the other day. I went to our mailroom on campus, been here 16 years. The same lady's been here 16 years every time I drop something off. And she said, "What's your last name again?" I said, "Helfer," with the, so we've been doing this for 16 years. Like, it's still Helfer. It hasn't changed at all.
That's a good one.
Like, I mean, she looks at me like I'm, family. What's your last name again? Yeah, still Helfer. I'm gonna tell you something that and I know you guys know this guy very well. This guy probably helped me as a coach and doesn't even realize it. But we're all close to Sam Allen, all right? And Sam does a tremendous job with what he's doing now with clinics and teach. Like he's phenomenal. Sam was an incredible basketball player, and when we played them, he broke our press single-handedly, beat us at Pauley and Bulls. I can't remember if you were there then or not, but he beat us single-handedly by just attacking our press. Like we couldn't catch him. He was all over the place, but he knew where he was going, what he was going to do, and he went right at the basket. And they beat us at Pauley. And to this day, I still look back on that and say, there's a time when you've got to understand your press. Corey, you know this, that you've got to say, we can't trap that first guy, or let's double Sam out and get the dang ball out of his hands. I used to be bullheaded about it. And listen, we can press anybody, we can trap anybody. Sometimes, listen, man, it's about winning that game. Don't go down, in flames on your ship, proud as heck on the bow. I'd rather keep sailing, man, and keep winning and just go in a little different direction, instead of going down by the head, as they say on the Titanic. Like, make sure that as a coach, you've got to know when you might have to change. And I'll leave. I know we're getting towards the end. We played a game last year. I don't really want to say the name of the school because, it's in our league, but we have never played a triangle in 2. Never. Like, we hadn't done it last year. And we played a triangle 2 in the second half. And our guys are looking at me. I'm like, guys, they've scored 9 of the first 10 baskets. It doesn't matter what we play right now. They are scoring. Let's just try it. Let's go out there. It'll make them think. And we did it. And you guys, it started a comeback. We came all the way back and won the game. We were down like 14 or 15 when we went to it. And guys, we never practiced it. We had never taught. I thought, listen, you're going to be smart enough. 3 of you play a zone. Bowles, you chase that, or you chase that kid. Let's just see what happens. And it changed the game. Coaches, don't go down by the head of the ship, proud as you can be, doing man-to-man defense, fighting every screen. Be creative, win that game, and then adjust and fix it and practice the next week. That's my message.
I think you've had Coach Mason Barfield in your office too much with that story. That sounds like Coach Mason Barfield right there. He'll be proud of.
Yeah, and hey, let's give a shout out not only to Mason but Gordon Gibbons. That's one of the great guys in this profession that has helped me. Every time, Corey, I saw Gordon Gibbons, and he didn't know me. Like, I was a young guy coming into the profession. I think we have a good relationship. He treated me so incredibly well every time. I would talk to Gordon, and it was like, he looked at me like I was family, opposite of our mailroom lady. He was like, hey, Mike, how are you? Like, tell me, how are things going up there? Like, he was so nice to me. I remember that, to this day, and I know you got great love for Gordon Gibbons, and man, what a great person. And I remember seeing him at a recruiting event in the parking lot in Atlanta, and we stood outside and spoke for 45 minutes. And I know the guy had places to be. I was just wanting to try to learn something about pressing defense, just pick the guy's brain. He's a legend. But he treated me like I was the same as him. I had won 50 games. He had won 500. Man, just remember that in this profession.
It's funny when you were talking to guys before games and just being respectful and all that. That was who I thought of. He was always like that with people, and you've always been like that. And I think it shows. He used to always say, a lot of guys in coaching are insecure, and that's why they don't talk to you. They're not big timing you. It's actually the opposite. And I think there's probably a lot of truth to that. I might be preaching now, but I do think there's a lot of truth to that. A lot of times guys don't talk, not because they're big timing you. It's because they're, insecure. They're afraid you won't know who they are or whatever. And he was always the opposite, man. He would talk to anybody and everybody and treat them the same, and like hearing stories and stuff, had fun with it. And you do the same thing. I've always enjoyed that. I try to. I don't know if I do, but I try.
Yeah. And, I always try to reach out to guys when they get fired, because everybody reaches out to guys when they win a championship. And, Corey, you guys, the national tournament and win games out there, your phone's blowing up. It's when you get fired, man, that this profession, and that's what I'm talking about. It's the profession is bigger than me not talking to Daniel Bowles before the game because I want to beat him so bad. Like, the profession is beyond. Of course, I want to beat Bowles, and Bowles wants to beat me, and I would have less respect for him if he didn't attack every game like that. But man, can we not shake hands and ask about each other? Because when you get fired and you're on the outside looking in, you need guys reaching out to you to help you maybe get back in the profession or get back into a job somewhere, maybe not on your staff, but like, hey man, can I call somebody? Corey's got an assistant's job open. You want me calling for you to try to get you back in the profession? I think we as coaches have to keep everybody in the profession that we respect, and you get to know and grow your relationships and help young guys out. And there's too many guys out there that maybe it is insecurity. Maybe it's, just paranoid stuff. I don't know, man. I'm beyond all that. I'm Morgan Freeman. Just stamp the damn, let me go back to you're sitting. And then what happens? Approved, and he's out. That's
all right. Well, Bowles, you got anything you want to add before we let Helfer get us just closing remarks here?
Well, first thing, I'm surprised we kept it around an hour. I knew Helfer was a good storyteller, so I knew we'd be pushing the envelope. But Coach, thanks for being on. Corey, you know this, and Coach Helfer was big in the start of my career, giving me a shot, as a volunteer assistant, and you hear that and you're like, oh my gosh, why would you do that? Well, guys, I did that for 2 years and it changed my entire career. It changed my path. It helped me get a head coaching job, and it taught me a ton of stuff just from that. And so thank you, Coach. Thanks for being on. And he's somebody that's always there as a mentor, and you can text him and in those times when hey, Coach, we're not very good right now. What do we need to do? And he's always great at helping you out. So thank you for being on here. And we miss all the Ohio trips, and we could have talked NAIA stories forever. Some of those road trips and stuff, people would have no idea what you did, but we appreciate you being here. And we didn't go too far over an hour, so we're in good shape.
Well, and let me say this. One, I appreciate you guys doing this and having me on. And, I have tremendous respect and love for both of you guys. You guys know that. I'll leave you with this story is that, sometimes when we're on defense, I worked for Jay, and we would call it the dork defense. We wouldn't guard one guy, and we called him the dork. When I became a head coach, I thought that was a little too much. So we called it paint man. We don't, Bowles, you remember this. We wouldn't leave the paint. If you can't shoot, we would stay inside, clog the lane, and we would let you shoot as many as you want to. Well, listen, when we were at Poly and Bowles comes to work for me, we're going to play some one-on-one or 3-on-3 after practice. First time, Bowles plays at LaGrange. I'm like, man, this kid, he's going to be a baller. Poor shit. Like LaGrange has a special group down there, man. Corey, listen, Bowles is on my team the first time now, and I'm like, I'm taking Bowles. Like, he's on my team, and we're warming up, and he takes a shot, and I was like, whoa, wait a minute there. There's Bowles' jump shot. We were going to paint man him. And so I leave it with this. All right, Coach Bowles, maybe shooting was not your greatest strength, but does that not mean you can't still be a great player? Like, you did so many different things, and man, everybody's caught up on shooting and scoring. And like, parents ask their kids, how many points did you have? And the kid says, I had 3. And the parent says, oh man, you just didn't really play that well. Well, wait, he guarded the other team. Their starting player only had 5 and he's averaging 16. Like, and Bowles, I hope you understand that I'm using this as an example that you don't have to be a scorer to be a great player or impact the game. Bowles, he was a wall around the basket. You rebounded everything. You guarded. You were a team guy. Like, and I love
my career high in college was 9 points. I made a couple buckets.
We're a few in warm-ups.
Yeah.
But you know what I'm saying? Like, I just hope that as coaches look at it, don't just take the 7 guys that are averaging 20 points in high school, because you can't average 140 on your team, and like, get pieces that fit. Like, get a defense. Don't be afraid to take a kid that just rebounds the basketball. So, I know now we're pushing the hour, but that was my kind of ending story, is that Bowles and I, and I think you remember, Bowles, we didn't lose to them forever. Like, it was seriously a long winning streak. And I think we were paying poor Sheard. I can't remember who was with him, but we didn't lose to them for a long time. And then finally, I think they beat us. So,
And I'll say this though, I didn't shoot it a lot, but Coach Helfer would take that part on. He wasn't worried about taking a shot.
Listen, I built my team the right way. I went and got me a rebounder on my team, passer and a shooter. So, but I think, I'm very blessed to have been in this profession as long as I can, or as long as I have been. I've loved being in Georgia. I plan on keeping doing it for a while. I think this year at Valdosta State, we've won our conference 5 years in a row. Everybody at some point in time is going to say they're going to back, they got to come back sooner or later. I told our guys in the first meeting, this year, let's go. Let's get it. We're ready. So I'm excited and ready to go. I appreciate you guys having me on to tell these stories. And this is a great thing. So love both you guys.
Well, we loved having you on, man. We appreciate it. And definitely go down and watch Valdosta State. A great atmosphere, great basketball, great arena, great town, and a great coach down there. Make sure you see him. And this podcast has been for those who are in coaching, those who want to get into coaching, those who are around coaches, help coaches, hire and fire the coaches. And, keep tuning in, and let's get those viewers up. Subscribe, like, share. And we're out.